Heretic? The holier-than-thou Republican Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, shielding an alleged pedophile, along with a second man accused of sexual assault, because Donald Trump wants them to join his administration. All of which raises the question, what won't the Bible-thumping evangelical Christian do for Donald Trump? Welcome to the No Spin Zone. Graph's Grievances starts right now. The House Ethics Committee planning to meet Wednesday, November 20th, and potentially vote to release that ethics report on former Republican Congressman Matt Gaetz of Florida. Gaetz, of course, has been tapped by President-elect Donald Trump to be his Attorney General. Last week, the bipartisan House Ethics Committee canceled a vote to release their highly anticipated findings into allegations Gaetz had sex with a minor and used illicit drugs. That after the Republican House Speaker, Mike Johnson, put pressure on the panel to keep the report under wraps. Yes, you heard that correctly. The man who proudly preaches about how his evangelical Christian beliefs guide literally every decision he makes is using his leadership post and political capital to defend a man who has been accused of having sex with a 17-year-old.
I am a Bible-believing Christian. Someone asked me today in the media, they said, it's curious, people are curious, what does Mike Johnson think about any issue under the sun? I said, well, go pick up a Bible off your shelf and read it. That's my worldview. That's what I believe.
That was Johnson in his first interview last fall after he was elected Speaker. Johnson saying, quote, "Go pick up a Bible off your shelf and read it. That's my worldview." Apparently, the Speaker, who is a constitutional lawyer and has said he does not believe in the separation of church and state, needs to brush up on the Bible, because I don't think there is anything in there about defending alleged pedophiles. When confronted about this contradiction, Johnson said this.
You're a man of faith, you're a man of God, you're a man of family. With some of these nominees, Gaetz, Hegseth, RFK Jr., I wonder, does it matter anymore for Republicans to think of leaders as people who are moral in their personal lives? Is that still important to the Republican Party?
Sure. It's an important issue for anyone in leadership. This is what I'll say about the nominees that the president has put forward, is that they are persons who will shake up the status quo. And I think what the American people have believe and what they've delivered with the mandate in this election is a demand that we shake up the status quo. The reason that Matt Gaetz is such an exciting pick to so many people is because he will go in and reform the Department of Justice. It desperately needs it. Look, he and I sat on the Judiciary Committee together for almost 7 years before I became Speaker of the House, and we heard the evidence. We saw the evidence of lawfare. We saw how the Department of Justice had been used for political purposes, how they targeted Catholics in some examples, and parents at school boards and pro-life Americans. This is not what our system of justice was built to do, and Matt Gaetz will go in there and shake it up. And I think most of the American people understand that's an important function.
So if you shake up the status quo, is it okay if you are a rapist or a pedophile or perhaps murderer? And as for why Johnson is against releasing the ethics report, that could clear Gaetz of all the allegations against him.
Why be against the transparency? And listen, this report may clear him. I mean, for somebody who's going to be the top federal law enforcement officer in this country.
Yeah, so I don't know anything about the contents of the report because the way the rules work, of course, the Speaker of the House can't put a thumb on the scale or be involved in an ethics committee report. What I do know is that the comments about this being there's a precedent for releasing reports is not exactly accurate. Yeah, there are 2 breaches of the tradition in the past under very extraordinary circumstances. I don't think this meets that criteria. Look, Matt Gaetz is a colleague of mine. We've been serving together for more than 8 years. He's one of the brightest minds in Washington or anywhere for that matter, and he knows everything about how the Department of Justice has been weaponized and misused, and he will be a reformer. And I think that's why the establishment in Washington is so shaken up about this pick. But with regard to the report, there's a very important reason for the tradition and the rule that we almost always followed, and that is that we don't issue investigations and ethics reports on people who are not members of Congress. I'm afraid that that would open a Pandora's box, because the jurisdiction of the Ethics Committee is limited to those who are serving in the institution. That's its very purpose, and I think this would be a breach of protocol that could be dangerous for us going forward in the future.
First, Johnson has already put his thumb on the scale, stopping the report's release. 2, how is this not an extraordinary circumstance? Gaetz isn't leaving Congress to exit public life. Gaetz wants a promotion, for God's sake, to be the chief law enforcement officer of the United States. And 3, we, the American people, paid for that report. It is ours to see. Johnson acts like he and the Ethics Committee do not work for us. They do. It is our report. Thankfully, despite Johnson failing to realize this, many United States senators on both sides of the aisle want to see the House Ethics report before voting on Gaetz's nomination.
Should the House Ethics Committee release that report, Senator?
Absolutely, and I believe the Senate should have access to that. Now, should it be released to the public or not? That's I guess that will be part of the negotiations, but that should be definitely part of our decision making. Once again, I go back to it in Article 2, Section 2 in the Constitution. The Senate has to advise and consent these individuals, and in that process, we're going to give Matt Gaetz the same chances we'll give all President Trump's nominees. You heard what Speaker Johnson said about Matt Gaetz. What do you think?
I think he's not only unqualified, he is really disqualified. Are we really going to have an attorney general who there's credible allegations he was involved in child sex trafficking, potential illicit drug use, obstruction of investigation, who has no experience serving in the Justice Department, only being investigated by it?
There should not be any limitation on the Senate Judiciary Committee's investigation, including whatever the House Ethics Committee has generated.
We should have access to it one way or another, based on the way that we do all of these nominations.
Republicans will hold 53 Senate seats in the next Congress, meaning they can only afford 3 defectors in the confirmation process. So hopefully we will soon see that report, which new details are leaking about every moment. An attorney representing 2 women who testified to both the federal and House ethics investigations into Gaetz told Politico just last night that his clients attended as many as 10, quote, sex parties with Gaetz between 2017 and 2018 during Gaetz's first term in the House. At those parties, the women allegedly testified there were, quote, group sex situations and illegal drugs were present. One of the women allegedly told investigators she witnessed Gaetz, quote, having sex with her friend who was underage at the time. Gaetz denies all the allegations against him, but this is the information evangelical Christian speaker Mike Johnson doesn't want you or your senators to know. All of this comes as we are learning more about another embattled Trump cabinet pick. The Washington Post now reporting that Pete Hegseth, Trump's choice to lead the Department of Defense, paid a woman who accused him of sexual assault as part of a non-disclosure agreement in 2017. Hegseth maintains the encounter was consensual and that he was a victim of blackmail. Okay. When contacted by CNN, the woman at the center of the controversy became, quote, visibly distraught at the mention of Hegseth's name, but declined to be interviewed without first contacting her attorney. So perhaps we will soon hear from her as well. This, as Trump reportedly is telling his advisors, he is standing behind both Hegseth and Gaetz. Republicans have long used religion to attack those who are not straight, white, and Christian. Under the guise of God, they have defended slavery, subjugated women, and attacked gays, lesbians, and transgender people. Now, America's most powerful evangelical Christian is signaling to all God-fearing men that there is nothing wrong with covering up rape and sexual abuse. Shame on him. Thank you for watching Graf's Grievances. Let me know what you think. Please like, subscribe, share, and join me in the next one.